fun.
All right, so I'm gonna show you guys how to use the irons in my class and how to get comfortable with where things are, a little bit of a technique, some safety protocols and whatnot. So come on over this way. We're near the Creative Cubbies. Here's where you'll find the ironing boards and the irons. You're gonna wanna have a cup of water nearby because the irons need to have water in them for the steaming purposes. You can just grab a mason jar or a cup, and we may even leave some over here if we're gonna be doing projects with the irons so that y'all can just share and use it. I also typically have a pitcher over here that y'all could use as a whole group if you needed more than just a little cup. So what we're gonna do first is get our ironing board. You can use either the tabletop ironing board. These open all the way out like this. You can then either set it at a desk, or if someone isn't using a sewing machine, you could set it on a sewing machine table. You just don't want it all the way at the edge. You want to make sure that you have enough workspace. So this wouldn't be great. I would want to move sewing machine totally away. That's not even quite enough. So you have a really good workspace. I personally prefer using the full-sized ironing boards. So I'll show you how those work. So you grab an ironing board. There's a little clip that holds the base in place. It's really simple to open. Sounds really bad, sorry. This is how you open it. Before I set it up, I'm actually gonna go ahead and show you how to close it because everyone always freaks out about how to do it. If you're ready to close it, there's a black knob right here. You press it down and then bring it up. Sorry. But that's just how you close it. You gotta press that knob. So it's locked in place, you're gonna lift it up. Now, some safety protocols with the irons. You do not want a trip hazard with your cord. So you want to scope out where you're gonna plug in your iron before you kind of get everything ready to go. So I'm gonna bring my ironing board and iron over here because there's a plug right on this wall. This is better than setting up over here and a cord going across. So I'm gonna plug it in, come close, and you'll see. The Shark irons are, in my opinion, the best. We have some others and you can use them, but if you can snag one of the Shark ones, they're better. So it's on, but it's not gonna get hot because right now the green light is just on power. You've gotta click this fabric selector button up to, we're gonna use cotton. So you bump it all the way to the top. It's flashing green, meaning it's heating up. Once it's solid green, it's hot and ready to go. You can see on the side that this does have water in it. The max fill line is here, meaning if it was low on water and you wanted to fill it up, you'd open this latch here, you would turn it down and pour water inside with the cup. But you would want to check by lifting to make sure it wasn't going any higher than the max. This is fine. As long as it's above the S and the Shark, you should have enough for one little job. So while we're waiting for it to heat up, you want to always leave your iron in the upright position, whether it's hot or not. The iron obviously gets very hot. So if you were to leave it flat down, you can burn the fabric and even possibly start a fire. So that's bad. Want to avoid that. So we're gonna set it over here. I'm keeping an eye on it. It actually just turned solid green. So that means we're ready to go. I'm gonna get some fabric. This is from my textile science class. I don't even know whose this is. Candace, this isn't yours. Okay, great. All right, so when you're actually ironing your fabric, you kind of want to check your surroundings, make sure there's not a lot going on. You don't want someone to bump into you and then you burn yourself. I should also mention, never check to make sure your iron is hot by touching it. I've learned that some family members throughout the years have maybe taught you to, like, lick your finger and touch it. Please don't do that. Where, modern technology, we've got our lights, the lights work. If it's solid green, we're ready to go. So when you are actively ironing, you want to always keep the iron in motion. Never leave it sitting down. Keep it moving. If you need to take a break, always set it to the side, lift it up. The iron's gonna naturally produce some of its own steam. So if you saw that there, I'm ironing, I'm not touching any buttons. But when I lifted it, some steam came out. That's good, that's normal. What you want to make sure that you notice though, is if you don't want steam at all, you can turn it off. But I like to leave a little on because it helps. That also is a dial in for when you use the steam button. So these two buttons here activate the water in the iron. This one acts as like a spray gun. So the water actually comes out above and it sprays the water. It's not coming out yet. Oh, nope. Okay, don't use that one. We're just not going to use that one. I don't normally use that one anyway, and that's why, because it makes a mess. But you will use the steam, okay? So the steam is when you're actively ironing, you can press it and it forces steam out through all these holes. I can show you from the side. If I press it while it's up, all that steam comes out. Do not ever do that at somebody, because turns out steam can burn you worse than just boiling water. Steam is actually hotter than boiling water. So you're gonna iron your fabric or whatever it is you're using. Make sure that you've checked with me that the fabric we're working with is actually able to be ironed. This right here is 100% cotton, but later we'll be making some projects that use fabric that melts if you iron it. So definitely ask and make sure you're allowed to iron something before we do it. So this is the general way you iron fabric. Just keep it moving. We will use the phrase press interchangeable with the word iron. So sometimes I might tell you to press a hem before you sew it. And what I mean by that, a hem is where you take a raw edge of fabric and you fold it over and you sew it down. That way you don't have a raw edge like that. You have a nice, pretty hemmed edge. You'll notice almost all your clothes is gonna have some kind of hemmed edge. It's kind of trendy now to have raw cut edges on like sweatshirts and hoodies and stuff. But if I talk about hemming, that's what I mean. It's to fold over a side and sew it down. But it's really handy to actually press your hem first, which would mean to kind of fold it, iron it, and then as you're coming down, you're folding your fabric and ironing it, maybe steaming it as you go. That's gonna make it a lot easier to sew your hem because this fabric is not cut straight, but we're working with what we got. The fabric will now hold its shape so that when you go to sew it, you're not trying to hold the fold. So again, that's super crooked, but that's what it means to like press a hem. Then we'd sew it down. So that's the general safety practices and techniques for ironing in my class. As far as putting away your iron, when you're done, let's say I was finished, you always want to kind of announce like, hey, I have a hot iron and I'm done with it. Does anyone need it? Because it does take a while to heat up. You want to let somebody else know you're done. So kind of give a hooty hoo. If no one needs it and you're done, you're going to unplug it. You're going to wrap the cord around the base. And then if the whole class is finished up, we can put the irons back on the creative cubby, but that's only if no one else is going to be getting irons that day. If we're actively still moving and using them, you're going to always put hot irons at the front of the room to signal to other students they're hot and be gentle when grabbing them. So, for example, I'm going to unplug this iron. Okay, I pull it out from the wall. I'm gonna wrap the cord around the base, being really careful to not let it wrap around the metal. No one else is gonna be using an iron today. I'm gonna tuck, well, you might wanna try to tuck the cord into itself so it doesn't unravel, but it's not necessary. And then since no one else is using these today, I'm gonna put it in metal side forward on the shelf. Then of course, I'm gonna clean up by putting away my ironing board, which I already showed you. Press this button right here and slide it up and set it away. If you ever have questions about an iron, two things. One, there's a card over here with a lot of information. Check that if you have questions. And then if you're still unsure, come and ask me. Irons are not something I want you figuring out if you don't know how to use them. So good luck and have fun.